Please take their seat. On behalf of the Board of Directors and staff of Urban Homeworks, I'd like to take this time to welcome all of you to the annual Perpetuate the Hope gathering. I welcome you into a space where many of you have discovered unlikely friends and have experienced the opening of hearts and the blessings of coming together. Today, we hope that you are inspired, that you feel the Spirit of God work within you, the Spirit that moves you to feel pain, joy, and love as we meet at the sacred table where we welcome our differences and lean beyond tolerance, challenging ourselves to act as one in solving problems and bringing hope to the fore. To date, Urban Homeworks has produced 96 homes and developed 144 multifamily homes. Over the last year, 336 people were housed, 153 people registered to vote. Almost 1 million in contracts went to local minority and women-owned businesses, and 22 change agents were catalyzed and are leading in our community, affecting change that brings about the positive presence of justice. This is truly something to celebrate, and it's okay if you clap. But before we get this program started, I'd ask you to join me in prayer. Father, here we are and here you are, united by your grace. Endear our hearts to one another in brotherly and sisterly love. Power us to work towards and preserve a oneness, a unity of mind and spirit, and to fight for justice. Help us to realize that there can be no understanding where there is mutual rejection. Help us to help each other and to care about and for those who have been beaten and broken and left by the side of the road, restoring their spirit and renewing their hope. Let us work together, sacrificing ourselves and utilizing our resources together to clothe the naked, to give drink to those who are thirsty and feed those who are hungry, to house and build homes for those who are homeless or who are seeking a better way for them and their family, to reach out to the prisoner, those who are incarcerated, as well as taking care of and bringing healing to those who are hurting. Fill us with the desire and the need to bear each other's burdens, to build each other up, increase our faith, confirm our hope, and perfect us in your love, that our work and our leadership would be transformational as you are the God that makes all things new. Continue to pour out your love on us, and let us be bound together with that love as we go our diverse ways, united in this one spirit which makes you present in the world and which makes us all witnesses to the ultimate reality of your Son. Love has overcome. Love is victorious. In the invincible name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Good afternoon. Pastor, thank you for that blessing. We appreciate it. My name is Cody Schimmelfinnig, and what I do at Urban Homeworks is I am the major gift officer. But we have an activity or a tradition at Urban Homeworks to talk about where we're from, your place and your people, right? And one of my people, my dad, is here today, and it's his 75th birthday. So happy birthday, Dad. That's where I'm from. So, here's what we're going to do today. My guess is the first time you were introduced to Urban Homeworks, you might have heard somebody say, have you seen the doodle? Has somebody showed you the doodle? And the doodle is really a sketch, an illustration that shows you what we do. Because after all, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It came to life in the early years of Urban Homeworks as a way to visually represent the strategies that we use in our approach to community development. Today, I have the privilege of showing all of you the doodle for the first time, maybe. Maybe it's your 101st time. And if you haven't already, the prayer's been said, start eating, please. Dig in, that's all right. So, video. The mission of Urban Homeworks is to perpetuate the hope of Jesus Christ through innovative community development. that produces equitable and dignified housing, a strategic network of good neighbors, and the redemptive development of real estate. The way we accomplish all these things is by starting with a building like a house or an apartment. Now, these properties are distressed. They're often foreclosed. They could be abandoned. And they're really not a whole lot to look at when we start. But we transform them into community assets. And we make dignified housing out of them by employing talented trainees, volunteers, and local subcontractors. Through training partnerships, some of those folks are here: Goodwill Easter Seals, Tree Trust, and Youth Build. They basically bring skills to at-risk youth and underemployed adults who then get valuable construction skill training by using these job sites, our projects, as a classroom. On their heels comes thousands of volunteers from churches, community groups, and the Quicksilvers. Local businesses and corporations come on site to get their hands dirty on our projects in communities that they may have not been exposed to otherwise. And finally, local subcontractors. They help us with the pieces of construction that we don't do on our own or that we don't have volunteers do. And because those local subcontractors are from the community, the money they earn locally, then it stays locally in the community. Now, when the houses or these apartments are complete, they become homes for families seeking stable, affordable, and dignified rental opportunities. And in some of these rentals, we place urban neighbors. These are people who commit to a faith-rooted learning community, striving together for greater cultural awareness and competency. Being an urban neighbor means being intentional with your time and with your space to demonstrate love for neighbor. Some of the completed projects that we have become home ownership opportunities as well. Our home ownership program allows families to enhance their credit by participating in financial classes, and then that makes it possible for them to grasp their own dreams of home ownership. So, urban neighbors then often choose to live in the neighborhoods where they were placed even after ending their time with us. And many of our rental residents also move on to become homeowners as well. We are intentional during this time about partnering with local social service organizations so that when unexpected issues or maybe expenses come up, they don't disrupt that housing stability for our families. These home ownership and mixed income rental properties are in close proximity to each other. To take community engagement even further, see, we concentrate our community development impacts by locating the homes intentionally near to community assets like parks, local businesses, transportation resources, schools, communities of faith. This strategic placement is part of what we call the People-Oriented Development Strategy, or POD. We have 16 of these neighborhoods, or PODs, scattered throughout North and South Minneapolis and in Frogtown in St. Paul. Now, by focusing on reconnecting people, we can rebuild neighborhoods and we can reclaim hope. We are leveraging housing to revitalize communities, to build economic vitality, and to weave together the relationships that build power to effect positive change in these communities. Now, I want you to keep eating, or start eating if you were being polite, and we're going to watch a video, actually from Senator Amy Klobuchar, and then you can have some time just to enjoy your meal.
Hello to everyone gathered for the Perpetuate the Hope luncheon. I think you know I'd much rather be there with you in person, but there's just a few things going on right now, and I'm honored to join you via video. I'd like to thank Chad Schwitters, the Executive Director of Urban Homework, and all the local officials, business leaders, and all the community members attending. And thanks to the staff and supporters. There are a lot of things you could be doing with your time, but your faith brought you here. Your generation brought you here. You know that the availability of affordable housing that a family can fit in their budget, is one of the most important issues for families. That's why you've dedicated yourselves to turning unused properties into housing and bringing communities together to advocate for this issue. But too many Minnesotans are still facing higher housing costs than they can handle. Almost 600,000 Minnesota households pay more than 30% of their income on housing. That's why I'm working as your partner in Congress. During my time as a U.S. Senator, I fought for a variety of housing supports, from tax credits to federal block grants, and help to encourage the development of affordable housing. Unfortunately, this year the administration proposed budget cuts that would greatly reduce affordable housing opportunities. But I'm determined to stand up against these cuts. They're wrong for America, and they're wrong for the Minnesota families who are counting on our help. So I'll end with this story. When my daughter was about 4, she was in our church nativity play, and she was to play the angel. And she had these big angel wings on. We're sitting out there in the pews, and she won't go out to practice. And I say, why won't you go out? She says, I don't want to go out. And I said, I don't understand. You have the coolest part in the whole play. You get to go out at the end, spread your wings. She says, Mom, I want to be Mary. And I said, no, Mary is 14 years old. She's that girl there. You can't be her. I want to be the donkey. I said, no, these 2 other boys are the donkey. And I said, what is going on? She says, Mom, I don't know how to tell them. I don't know how to fly. I said to her that day, you know what, honey? Not all angels fly. You are the angels, the guardian angels, for so many people you've never met, to people whose names you might never know, to people who won't know you. But you have given them the gifts of wings, wings in the form of affordable housing, wings that let them fly. So thanks again for everything you do to make the lives of your neighbors in need a little bit brighter. Enjoy the rest of today's celebration. You deserve it.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, that was a little loud. Thank you for coming today. I'm Anna DeCrans. I've been an employee at Urban Homeworks for 6 years. I'm currently an accountant. However, I worked in property management for 4 years prior to my current role. Today, I have the esteemed privilege of introducing our next speaker, who is a longtime resident of Urban Homeworks. Some of you may know him as the master of quad roller skating with his weekly debuts at Roller Garden in St. Louis Park, or have witnessed his ability to thoroughly clean house firsthand by utilizing his company, Janny Clean. Perhaps he's your fraternal brother in the Freemason Society, your child's football coach, or your neighbor. My speculation is that for the majority of you all here today, this is your first time meeting Mr. Carl Billingsley. Carl, will you please join me up here? At Urban Homeworks and in our community, Carl is certainly not a stranger. He is a highly committed change agent who continues to show up, step up, and engage in the spaces and places that are most meaningful to him, his neighbors, and those that he employs. That means you can find him handing out winter clothing and hot chocolate to the neighborhood, participating in National Night Out, and being an active pod council leader. Since the day he and his family moved into an Urban Homeworks home in 2011, Carl has exemplified what it means to catalyze his own voice and the voices of his community. So that is why, on behalf of Urban Homeworks and the Pod Council, we are proud to present Carl with the inaugural 2017 Leadership Award for catalyzing voices and igniting change.
Good afternoon. Before I start, I'd like to thank God, because it's His grace that has me in this position, standing here speaking to you all today. First off, I would like to thank Urban Homeworks for giving me this honor. It truly inspires me to do more. Secondly, I would like to thank Anna DeCrans for her introduction. and then also for probably being the most influential in the development of my relationship with Urban Homeworks. By connecting me with work opportunities, setting me on my way. From 2009 to 2012, only working temp and odd jobs, I had little to no income, which left me feeling defeated and abandoned, and always hearing the echoes of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, that's easier said than done when you don't have any boots. With limited higher education, little resources, and having grown up on Chicago's South Side, I was marked for failure. Continuing to work temp and odd jobs, I remained in contact with Urban Homeworks and Anna DeCrans. Her commitment landed my family a home we can be proud of, and I have to say her patience was unmatched. She is a big reason I'm here, standing here today, able to tell you that my company, JennaClean, has to date completed over 400 property turnovers, large and small, one including a, thank you, one including a post-construction clean for a Menards company. We are proud to say that we have become reputable for great service that conforms to the needs of our clients. What makes me even prouder is that we've been able to employ men and women that live and spend within our community. Before being introduced to Urban Homeworks, it was hard for me to keep a job or a home for more than a year. Many families struggle with employment and housing barriers leading to homelessness. That's why affordable and quality housing is important. Why should you have to live in less quality housing because you live north side Minneapolis? Why do you have to search outside of your communities for employment? Well, the answer is you don't. If we continue building and rebuilding homes and businesses, we create a sustainable and proud community. When we address real problems, we get real solutions. But only by continuing to support those that are getting real results and duplicating that process. Urban Homeworks is doing that, providing quality and affordable housing for all. They are creating economic and social growth within the community by contracting and supporting local businesses. Also encouraging community engagement by providing a platform for residents to give back. I'm proud to say that I've been a Pod Council member for 6 years, and the Pod Council is actively creating platforms for residents to give back and come together. Such as voter registration drives, community gathering events. She spoke of roller skating, flow, and our crowning achievement to date, the Let's Talk series, where we partnered with Metro Council, bringing together a number of local city and state officials to discuss issues and solutions around transportation and quality housing. Fostering new community leaders. Through education, the Pod Council facilitates classes such as organizing issues to teach those with a heart and mind for service to act. We can no longer sit back because of fear or rejection. We cannot flee at a sign of adversity or hide behind ignorance and anger. We must create positive trends by being involved and continuing to challenge bigotry and intolerance. We must counterbalance the effects of ignorance and fear, because the moment we stop, the scales tip out of our favor. We are in a battle for our children. We are in a battle for social and economic equity. I've learned when you don't have much to take pride in, you will take it in anything. And that's where some of our kids are. Many of our kids are resourceful, energetic, ambitious, and very bright. but yet they still lack the resources that enable them to create positive opportunities within their lives. It is up to us to help the children reprioritize their passions and lead them by example to show that they are capable of anything. I have been inspired by many people, some here today. Because of them, I continue to grow in confidence and knowledge. I am appreciative of Ethiopic Burnett. Where you at, E? You way back there. Thank you. And Shannon Jones for their encouragement. Where you at, Shannon? There you go. Thank you. For their encouragement and also their reminders. Like so many others, I wanted to be involved. I just needed a little extra encouragement. I want to thank the Urban Pod Council members, including Felicia Perry, who is a powerful voice for our community and does a lot for the Pod Council. And Mrs. Jackson, Julene Jackson. Are you here, Ms. Jackson? One of our most devoted and knowledgeable members. Also, Jasmine Crooks and Deontay Henley for their dedicated service to our community. I would also like to thank my grandparents who are not here today. I would like to thank my parents, Carl and Jan Billingsley, who has always encouraged me to do better. Could you two please stand up just for 1 second for me? You guys deserve a little bit of recognition. They continue to empower me to speak out and take action against the system that exploits the resources of our communities without any reciprocation or compensation. Finally, I would like to thank all of you here today. Your work is ever inspiring to me, and it helps me push forward to catalyze change. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Cody. My name is Troy Kapishke, and I'm honored to share about what I've learned and experienced with Urban Homeworks the past 15 years. I have known Chad since college, and I have some pictures of Chad's hair that give Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un a run for their money. And unfortunately, I was not allowed to share those pictures with you today. But I have been fortunate to witness the impact that Urban Homeworks has had on this community. I could use the full 6 minutes and describe how amazing the organization is. They are frugal, passionate, tenacious, and highly creative. But one thing that stands out that has greatly impacted me and others around them is they're courageous bridge builders. They have the courage to be in the uncomfortable. They model the story of Zacchaeus' table in their boardroom, in their organization, and in their community. Just a quick recap on Zacchaeus' story. Jesus was entering Jericho, and he just healed a blind beggar named Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus stood up and started walking with Jesus in a crowd of people. They came across a guy named Zacchaeus, who was a very wealthy man, a tax collector, and a hated sinner. Jesus calls him down from the tree and says, "We're going to dine at your house today." The crowd was disgusted and in an uproar that Jesus was choosing to dine with Zacchaeus. Here we go. The table is set. We have a blind beggar, a wealthy tax collector sinner, and the God of the universe breaking bread. As my daughter Ava would say, awkward. Through the love of Jesus, Zacchaeus said, "Today I'm going to give my half of my wealth away to the poor. And if I've wronged anybody, I will pay them 4 times back." And Jesus replied, "Salvation has come to this household today." Each of these three modeled the courage to be in the uncomfortable. I want to share a story with you about this tension of who Jesus chose to break bread with and the recovery of sight that occurs at that table. Not too long ago, I found myself in Hungary with a colleague, himself a Hungarian. He took me to this place called the House of Terror, where the secret police tortured people. It is now a museum and tells the story of the Russian occupation and the atrocities that occurred in Hungary. In one part of the building, there's a grand wall of pictures of the victims. In another part of the building, there's a grand wall of the victimizers. I really struggled with which wall my picture would hang on, especially if I had a family and children to feed. Would I have the courage to even be at the table? Would I have the courage to be in the uncomfortable? Which seat would I sit in? Would I be a victim or a victimizer? Or could I have been a victim as a victimizer? History is filled with atrocities, genocide, evil, and hate. The Holocaust of the Nazis against the Jews and the ill-clad. The Turks obliterating the Armenians. In Rwanda, the Hutus murdering the Tutsis. The atrocities of our own history, slavery, and the persecution of Native Americans, to the present-day conflicts all around us. There's story after story in every single nook and cranny of this world. I'm going to make a turn now and bring it to the here and now. As I reflected upon Jesus' table, I wrestled with these questions. Do I want my Jesus sitting down with the victimizers in those stories? Do I want my Jesus sitting down with the current day victimizers that would make every man, woman, and child in this room gasp? Upon further reflection, I have realized that I need to believe in a Jesus that sits down with those victimizers, because in the right time, in the right place, I could be that person. I want to think that I would have the courage to be in the uncomfortable, to be wholly disposable for the love of Christ, that I would be the Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the Martin Luther King, the Chief Joseph, or the Oskar Schindler, who showed amazing courage to be in the uncomfortable. I have witnessed the Urban Homeworks team demonstrate this kind of courage to be in the uncomfortable. Can I get an amen? I'm going to share a story with you and bring this a little closer to home about how Urban Homeworks encouraged me to be in the uncomfortable. This became more real for me after my journey with a homeless man in Minneapolis. About 7 years ago, I pulled up to the corner of Penn and 394. It was sleeting rain outside, and I saw a homeless man holding a sign. I had seen him many times before, and what should I do? I pulled over, rolled down my window, and asked him if I could buy him lunch. That lunch date was the beginning of a beautiful, messy, and at times gut-wrenching journey. My first lunch with him was uncomfortable. There's been many sleepless nights that followed on this journey as I have wrestled with how do I help him, to now realizing he has helped me. Over time, our relationship became more and more authentic. One day I saw him on the corner. I zipped over to the Cup of Java to pick up his favorite sandwich. I swung back around and delivered the sandwich. He opened up the to-go container, and I had forgotten to say no pickles. For the next 5 minutes, I'm getting yelled at because he hates pickle juice in his sandwich. We appeared to be so different, but I have realized that we have a lot more in common. He holds a sign on a corner to raising money to live. I go into meeting rooms raising money to live. He longs for connection and intimacy in relationships, and so do I. We both are broken and in need of accepting the loving invitation to dine with the God of the universe at Zacchaeus' table. And we both hate pickle juice in our sandwiches. In closing, we're all leaders in this room. Sorry. We need to unite to have courage to be in the uncomfortable. Randall Stevenson, the CEO of AT&T, recently held a global telecom with all of his employees. And he said, "Tolerance is for cowards. Being tolerant requires nothing from you but to be quiet and to not make waves, holding tightly to your views and judgments without being challenged. Do not be tolerant of each other. Work hard, move in the uncomfortable territory, and understand each other." Urban Homeworks lives out the courage to be in the uncomfortable. Imagine if we all lived our lives having more courage to be in the uncomfortable, to accept the invitation to dine with the God of the universe at Zacchaeus' table. Let's unite to have the courage to be in the uncomfortable. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I think I'm a little taller than everybody. So first I must say that I've attended this event for quite a few years in a row now. So I'm just going to explain to you how I got here. My story's a little different. I wasn't homeless. I didn't face being on the street per se. I worked long, hard hours all of the time, and I dedicated most of my time to community and to the people that needed me most. But at the same time, I was fighting the rental scene. I think I had moved at least 5 times between 2006 and 2015, and that's a lot of moving. You see, when you're a working person that makes too much, but not enough at the same time, and the resources are not available to you, and they're almost nearly impossible to obtain. I was moving into places that were not fit because I could afford them, and then a problem would arise and I would have to move. My daughter was getting bigger and I had to seek more room, so again I would have to move. I was moving into places where neighborhoods were less desirable, but again I could afford it, so I moved there. Then I became a victim of an armed robbery. I didn't feel safe and I needed my daughter to feel safe, and you guessed it, here it was, time to move again. Keep in mind, every time you move it requires deposits, first month's rent, last month's rent, and sometimes even more if you're not at a 700 or 800. I worked and I worked hard, but I still didn't make enough to qualify for a loan for a home, and I made too much to qualify for any outside resources. About 10 years ago, my daughter came to me in tears. She said, "I have a friend, she needs help, she's homeless." I agreed to meet her. I wanted to hear her story. She came to our house and I asked her to tell me her story. She basically let me know she had nowhere to go, just wanted to be able to get to school, shower, and do her homework, and graduate. So there I was with another child. Less than a week later, she came around with her little sister. Here I was, me and 3 girls. Of course, we didn't have enough space, so here I was, again, moving. We moved and I maintained with the girls without any outside resources for about 2 years. In 2010, my mother passed away, and we had to move. We moved into my mother's house to prepare it for sale. At this point, one of the sisters was leaving for Georgia State University, so now it's me, my daughter, and the younger of the 2 sisters. I made a promise to my daughter that she would always be okay as long as I was around, and I made a promise to the girls that they would walk out of my door into their dorm rooms. 2 years there passed and the house was for sale. It went fast. We had 8 days to go. Time to move. Yep, so that's what we did. I had to take the first thing that I qualified for, too small, bad plumbing, terrible travel for the girls on the bus line to school. But we moved. The girls seemed fine. All they cared about was school, food, and boys. But there was times where I could barely meet the rent. I'm going to work every day, leading in community, serving families, paying their rent, buying them food, getting them gas, making sure no family went without Christmas, Thanksgiving, or resources that they needed to get by. But I didn't qualify for anything. So all the things I was providing for other people, I couldn't even get for myself. I made too much, or I didn't make enough. This brings me to how I ended up at this event for the first time. I met this lady. She's here, right there. Shannon Smith Jones. She told me where she worked. She told me about all the programs and services, and I thought to myself, I have got to get this information out to every family that I know. So that's just what I did. I referred family after family to rental properties and into different areas of Urban Homeworks. By this time, I've attended my second Perpetuate the Hope event. Shannon became an instrumental leader and friend, and she'll laugh because I call her my first responder. This friendship developed as one of the best friendships I've ever had. So I called my first responder and I said, hey, why can't I do something for myself at Urban Homeworks? She said, you can, just do it. Call and find out what you need to do. I made the call, and within 12 hours, I had every document necessary turned into the person that I was assigned to. Ask Chad. I'm not joking. Within a couple weeks, I looked at 3 or 4 houses. I chose one, and the process began. The girls were on their way out. My daughter was starting to pave her path, leading other young people to succeed. The other was off to her dorm room, as promised, at Tennessee State University. I'm pretty sure every single Urban Homeworks employee knew my name because I literally called there every single day. Seriously. The closing happened December 15th of 2015. The affordability, the stability, and the comfort of home has allowed me to emerge even further in my leadership in this community. In 2016, I was awarded the Jerome Hill Artist Fellowship. This allowed me to build a studio in my home and to continue to maintain the work I have committed to do in addressing unsolved violent crimes by the use of unlawful firearms and bringing humanity back to the conversation of violence using art as a catalyst for change. The stability has allowed me to prepare for 3 local art exhibitions, including the Jerome Hill Fellowship exhibit, as well as 2 national traveling exhibitions addressing similar issues. I've made a commitment to provide the voice that is left unheard for those affected by gun violence, for those suffering from mental health issues, those affected by suicide, domestic violence, and other things that are barriers. I use my craft to bring people to a place where they feel safe enough to seek help, empowered enough to give help, provoked enough to work harder, and unified enough to make change collectively. When it's all said and done, the whole point of a foundation is to build on it. You cannot build a dream on a foundation of sand. You must first have a structure to weather the tests of all storms, and everything that happens beyond that must be cemented in the heart with uncompromising conviction. I thank you for listening, and I thank you for all you do for and with Urban Homeworks. And before I go, I'd like to ask you to give a warm welcome to Urban Homeworks Executive Director, Chad Schwitters.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. I have, I don't know, I guess I got something to say. Thank you, Nikki, for your story, and Carl and Troy for sharing a little bit of your life and how that's intersected with Urban Homeworks. And I want to thank the Dr. Reverend Heron for his introduction, as well as for my family, who's drove them from Wilmer and Clare City and from the north side to be here. Thank you for being here. My name is Chad Schwitters, and for the last 18 years, I've had the privilege of working shoulder to shoulder with a wonderfully resourceful, gritty, compassionate, and tenacious group of people. And so as the staff and board stand, I would like you to help me thank them for their work and their commitment. And I'd just like to call out real quick the sponsors of the event. So if you look on the back of the one of the invitations here, you'll see Marketplace Home Mortgage, Hagstrom Builders, Traditions Bank, Bell Lumber and Pole, Northern Trust and Venture, the John W. Moody Foundation, and Ryan Construction. Thank you for helping make today possible. And then we've got a number of elected officials in the room, and so I'd like to just thank the electeds in the room if you'd like to stand, and just thank you for your service and your commitment to this work and to making our world a better place. And then the only way we get to do this is when a whole bunch of people decide that they're going to recruit their friends and family to come out for an hour and hear some of the stories and celebrate with us. And so I'd just like to thank all the table hosts that filled all the tables today. So last fall, Sheila and I decided to take Joe and Sam and Kate and start section hiking the Superior Hiking Trail from Canada's border to Duluth, a little 296-mile walk in the woods. And what I didn't expect was that this little adventure would be such a powerful metaphor for so many things in our lives as we've been kind of walking this path. And so a couple of weeks ago, my 12-year-old son and I, Joe, we went up for a couple of nights on the trail. And on the second day, we needed to go about 9.5 miles. For a 12-year-old, that's a long way with a full pack to get to our campsite. And so Joe, he started to kind of slow down a little bit right around mile 7. And he was evoking all of the great power of positive thinking. He was saying things like, "Oh, Dad, I'm feeling fresh. I can do this one step at a time, one step at a time." And then he says, "What the mind conceives, Dad, the heart believes, the body achieves. I can do this." But along the way, I started to pull things out of his pack and put it on mine. And by about mile 8, little Joe just kind of plops onto the trail and says, "I'm done, man. I can't take another step." So we broke out our little chairs and we broke out our water bottles and had a little snack. And after a little bit, I said, "Hey, Joe, how about I just throw your pack on mine?" He said, "No, Dad, you can't do that." So we kept eating our Cliff Bars and stuff, and then I said, "Hey, Joe, just for a little bit, just let me take your pack for a minute." He said, "Okay, Dad." So I strapped his pack atop mine, and we ambled along the trail. I was chatting with one of my friends about this story, and he says, "Isn't that kind of how it goes? Sometimes we get awfully tired on the trail, on this old path, and sometimes we just need our pack lightened a little bit. And then there are times where we just need a friend to come alongside and pick it up for a while. And sometimes we can be that friend." It was pretty easy for me to offer to take Joe's pack. I mean, he's my 12-year-old son. He's my own flesh and blood. But what about the loads of those around us who are struggling that are not our flesh and blood? To reach across the boundaries of otherness and to help or be helped takes more. And one of the things it takes is the courage to see and to respond to the intrinsic humanity of the other, and to see that other as indeed akin to my own flesh and blood. I think after working and thinking and grappling and trying to synthesize and condense the issue or the challenge down to its basic essence, I think the root of injustice resides somewhere in this basic, pervasive, insidious little lie. And it is this lie that is told and lived that says one person's humanity is somehow less valuable than another's. When the other in our lives becomes less valuable and becomes the lesser, then I don't have to feel so compelled to offer a hand and to pick up the other's pack, because somehow they just don't quite deserve it. They don't deserve it because they're lazy, or they're trust fund babies, or they're entitled, or they're rich, or they're poor, or they're renters, or they're homeowners, or they're Republicans, or Democrats, or they're white, or they're brown, or they're black. And the list can go on and on and on. It takes courage, as the old prophet Isaiah says, it takes courage to open your door to the unhoused, to clothe the shivering ill-clad. And, says that old prophet, if you do this, if I do this, then your life can shine in the darkness. We get to move from lying to living. It took courage for Nikki to open her door when her daughter's friends came a knocking, and then to turn around and knock on Urban Homeworks' door for a little help buying a house. And then to use that platform as a foundation to affect change around gun violence in our city. It took courage for Troy to examine himself and to find that what lies within him is both the victim and the victimizer. And it took courage for him to follow his friend, a friend who just happened to fly a sign, as his guide in that examination. And it took courage for Carl to do whatever he had to do to put food on the table and to start his business, and while building this business, investing himself as a leader in our community and in our city. It takes courage to reach across to the other, to help out with one's load, and it even takes more courage to find out why those loads are so unequally and inequitably distributed in the first place, and then to do something about it. So we're here to perpetuate the hope of Jesus Christ through innovative community development, and that does not mean proselytizing. It means that we're here to ignite the hope and the courage in as many of us across the lines of otherness as possible, that we might better and better enter into community with one another and maybe walk alongside each other, encourage one another, and from time to time maybe even pick up and carry one another's pack for a minute or two. Urban Homeworks is just one tool. We're one way in which we can practice and exercise this kind of courage. And we need you. We need one another. And so to close, I'd like to loosely quote this old prophet, Isaiah, that's posted around here and on the back of your programs, really loosely. And it goes like this. He just says, this is what I want. I want you to share your food with the hungry and invite the unhoused into your homes. And when you do, you'll be known as those who can fix anything, to restore old ruins, to renovate, to rebuild, and to make community more and more and more livable for everybody. I'd like to invite Queen Drea to come up and sing Rise Up. And I want to invite you to continue with us if you're already in our corner. And I want to invite those of you who aren't yet to come and join us alongside, to help lift a bit of the load and to live courageously. Thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for coming today. This is for table hosts. On your table are blue envelopes. If you could please take those inside our donation envelopes. And while Queen Drea starts to sing Rise Up, we ask that you rise up and look to the gifts that you can share so that we can continue to ignite change. Thank you.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fire but I see it in your soul. You're gonna walk it out. Move mountains. We're gonna walk it out, yeah. And move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it all again for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, I know you feel like dying, but promise will bring the world to its feet and move mountains, yeah. We'll move mountains, and I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'm not afraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it all 1,000 times again for you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope. And for that, we've got each other. And for that, we've got each other. We will rise, we will rise, we will rise. We will rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the pain, and we'll rise up, rise high like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We will rise 1,000 times. We will rise, we will rise for you, for you. Thank you, everyone, for coming to Perpetuate the Hope 2017. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.